must be our goal. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Very good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us this morning. My name is Miriam Ogotu. This show is a People's Court, and on today's show we're going to look at is a new judiciary possible, and I'll just read from today's paper that I think was captured, because yesterday Justice Martha Koome assumed office, and she was officially received at the Judiciary after having been sworn in last week as the first female Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya. And from the Star newspaper, page 9, Chief Justice Martha Koome yesterday took office with a strong message to her colleagues that they should endeavor to protect the independence of the judiciary and resist any invitation to rule on any case based on bias or ill will. She reminded judges how former CJ Willie Mutunga said the judiciary was under capture by agencies within the government, private sector and civil society. Koome said this is an active threat to the independence of the judiciary. Judicial independence, she said, luckily is anchored and ring-fenced in the Constitution. So joining me to advance this conversation this morning is Samuel Tawish, a journalist from Nairobi. Samuel Tawish, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Miriam, and my colleague panelists, and of course the viewers who are watching this program this morning.
All right, good morning, and nice to have you. And another journalist all the way from Nanyuki is Jevan Karanja. A very good morning to you.
Indeed, it's a very good morning here in Nanyuki, Miriam. Always a pleasure being on Punchline Africa TV. And good morning to our viewers wherever they are catching this broadcast from. Asante.
Nice to have you. And before we continue with this conversation, let's just listen in to a bit of what Justice Martha Koome had to say yesterday.
Structure that has extensively been improved. There are the necessary structures for cooperation and coordination to engage the stakeholders that have been put in place, such as the court users committees. During my interview, ladies and gentlemen, I shared my vision of the judiciary that is independent, efficient, accessible, and responsive to the aspirations of Kenyans and a true guardian of the rule of law. My team will build working relations with other actors in the administration of justice to reach our court users and other parties with a view of building their capacity with knowledge that will empower them to bear their own agency and to become champions for justice. When everybody becomes an agent and champion for justice, I believe this country will start looking for our own indigenous solutions that lead to reconciliation and peace. Moreover, many will avoid violence, conflict, and other pitfalls or black spots that lead to endless court cases. To achieve this shared vision, one of my priorities, with your support, ladies and gentlemen, my dear colleagues, is building an efficient institution. I would like to round the judicial officers and staff who have developed a culture of innovation and inclusion in an operating environment with adequate resources in an effort to serve Kenyans to whom we are all beholden. This has meant judges, magistrates, caddies, and tribunal members working under enormous case rules with outdated bonds available to them to deliver timely, efficient judgments. We are still grappling with unacceptably high levels of case backlog, despite the efforts of the last 10 years that had significantly reduced.
That is Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, Justice Martha Koome, there when she was being handed over officially the reins of the Kenya Judiciary yesterday at the Supreme Court. And she said that building an efficient institution is one of the key things that she'll be seeking to do as the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, Samuel Tawish. How would you advise her to go about this process?
Thank you once more, Miriam, for this opportunity, and thank you everyone who is tuned in and watching our Punchline Africa TV this morning. Indeed, it's a very good topic we are having to discuss about the coming in of the new Chief Justice, Hon Martha Koome. Miriam, I want to submit that, Kenyans are very happy and they're hopeful that now the coming in of the new Chief Justice is going to bring about a fresh breath and a paradigm shifting as far as the services at the judiciary is concerned. Because again, in the past, I think the lamentation from most Kenyans has been that we have lacked leadership. There's been incompetence, ineptness, especially at the judiciary's head. And therefore, with the coming in of the new Chief Justice, we are hoping that things are going to change. And therefore, to answer your question is that there's hope. We're going to have a new or a judiciary with a new face because we have a new person who is determined actually to do this job at the helm of the judiciary. But Miriam, if I should approach it further, I think the critical issues that perhaps every Kenyan really is aware of that continue to bedevil our Kenyan judiciary and has really compromised to a large extent service delivery at our Kenyan judiciary. And one among them is actually corruption allegations against, of course, the judicial officials mostly. And also there's the aspect of, the capture of the judiciary by external forces. There's that aspect of incompetence. There's the aspect of a backlog of cases. You remember even yesterday when the new Chief Justice was officially being received at the judiciary. These are the things that she did mention that she's going to address them. Because again, the judiciary has become like a parking lot for cases, and it is quite astonishing that much as the judiciary is continually asking for more budgetary allocation, they want more finances, they want more resources, but Kenyans as well expect them to reciprocate in the way and in the sense they dispense justice in a way that does not seem they are reluctant or they are not very keen on dispensing justice on time. So I think these are some of the things that the new Chief Justice is likely going to address and is the expectation of most Kenyans. Another thing, of course, is the aspect of corruption. And Justice Koome yesterday, as she was speaking, you listen keenly. And she even cited the first CJ under the new constitution, that is Willy Mutunga, and not necessarily the immediate predecessor. Because again, you understand the kind of friction that has been there between the immediate former Chief Justice, that is Dr. David Maraga, and the executive, the other arms of government, including Parliament, and the feeling that maybe he was not competent enough. Much as maybe the public perception is that he was not involved, he may not have been involved in corruption directly, but the aspect of ineptness and incompetence, I think, was largely attributed to Dr. Maraga because he could not come out clearly and rein on rogue judicial officials. And that is why you've seen the kind of lackluster we've been witnessing as a people or as a country, and the kind of judgments that appear to be more of intended to sabotage the operations of government. So I think she's someone who is coming in with a clear-cut kind of task and responsibility. She knows where she's come from. She knows the challenges. Being an insider, she knows the challenges that are in the judiciary. And I think she's trying to tell Kenyans that here I come, I am up to the task. And anyone who has been actually a compromise, who has been a stumbling block, who has been making it difficult for the judiciary to operate, especially if it is an internal matter, if it's a matter that has to be addressed from the judiciary itself, then she's up to the task. There's also another thing about the question of lifestyle audit. And I think this is what Kenyans would be asking the new Chief Justice to address right from the top, beginning from the Supreme Court to the Court of Appeal and to the High Court and other judicial officers, even to the clerks and staff. We will call and reiterate that this need to do a thorough lifestyle audit for all the judges, magistrates, and the staff of the judiciary. Because again, it is not possible, Miriam, that we can continue singing about a change in our society in terms of corruption when we have an institution itself which seems to have been webbed and compromised in as far as corruption is concerned. Because again, they are critical in as far as fight against corruption. So if they are conflicting themselves, they cannot be relied upon to dispense justice for Kenyans. And as far as these aspects are concerned, I submit, Miriam.
Thank you, Samuel Sawish. And yes, she brought in and reminded us, you other judges, of how the former CJ William Mutunga, said that the judiciary was under capture by agencies within the government, private sector, and civil society. Comey also said that this is an active threat to the independence of the judiciary, and judiciary independence, she said, luckily is anchored and ring-fenced in the Constitution. Now, her predecessor, who was also present in that ceremony yesterday, retired CJ David Maraga, who spoke earlier, also seemed to hint at the independence of judiciary being jealously guarded when he told her to ensure to remind every Kenyan that constitutional power is constrained power. What do you think she could borrow from watching how former CJ David Maraga, was at the helm of the Kenyan judiciary, and how, he went ahead to carry out his duties, perhaps some of the things that did not all go well while he was, the head of the, judiciary in Kenya? What are some of the lessons you think, Jevan Karanja, she could borrow from Maraga, and perhaps some of the mistakes she could, stay away from that Maraga perhaps did?
Thank you very much, Miriam. And I was quite impressed with the speech made by the CJ, Justice Mother Comey, as he takes the leadership in the judiciary of this country. But one thing he was specific is about the fight against corruption. I saw her talking of a speedy case processes that will ensure that justice is dispensed within a time limit, so that we fight this monster of corruption. Also, he was talking of the interdependent. That means that the three arms of government to work in coordinations to ensure that we take this country to the next level. I think that is something that we need to emphasize as Kenyans, so that, because we have seen a lot of push and pull, a lot of misunderstandings when it comes to how the judiciary in this country operates, especially when it comes to deal with the executive and the judiciary, the legislature. You see them not respecting the doctrine of separations of power. Therefore, that to me is something that we need to do as a country, so that we have a smooth running of a country. Because previously, as I come to your question, we saw Chief Justice former David Maraga having a rough time when it comes to him dealing with the executive. And he went to a point where he came on national television lamenting that he has been denying some money. The judiciary cannot operate. Some money has been held back. He has no Mercedes to operate. He was making some points that maybe the smooth running of judiciary as he intended to be is not coming to fruition, because maybe the executive arm of government is denying them some resources. Then, Miriam, on the same note, we saw some leaders in the executive, members of parliament, others the cabinet secretaries. When something happens, like the DCI goes to investigate some of them, like the EACC and the judiciary, these are the independent. Those are independence commission. Also, judiciary is supposed to be dependent. We saw them going in public domain, in political rallies, condemning judiciary, condemning judges. I think these are some of the things that leaders should restrain themselves from doing. They should not go out condemning anything that the judiciary makes, because it does not favor them politically. Therefore, the issue of political interference is also a point that Mother Justice Comey should not be a part of any political inclination. He needs to dispense justice independently to avoid this kind of scrabble and a scratch from the politicians. Therefore, those are some of the things that he need to read from what Maraga did his work. Also, on the same note, Miriam, in this country, we need to see, and we need to the judiciary need to cultivate and water this thing of ensuring that the kind of justice, the kind of verdict that they give it seems to resonate with the ordinary thinking Kenyans, that Kenyans see that justice is being done. I think that is something that we need to see, because you go to a case, you see a small matter, like somebody who has stolen a chicken, the kind of punishment that they get, Miriam, it does not resonate with the kind of act or the crime they committed. But when you come to corruption cases, you see a big wing, a political giant, a corruption giant. When taken to a court of law, the kind of fines, the kind of bold bails, it's quite small, and you compare with the amount they have stolen, then Kenyans seem to see like judiciary is a pendant towards the fight against corruption. Therefore, those are some of things that Mother Koome need to rectify, so that Kenyans will see that justice is being done even in the public eye. Also, Miriam, he needs to avoid coming out or lamenting on things that are happening on the social media. You know, Maraga was this man who was complaining on what is happening. He need to avoid this rhetoric in the social media, because at the end of the day, people just will have something to say. People will have something to poke hole. And when they realize that they post something, they trend a hashtag, and you react on it, then they will be coming to you. They're trying to push you to act. And that thing of Kenyans seeing that judiciary is acting because of the noise or because of the push that is coming from the social media or from the media at large, then it's not a good thing. Judiciary needs to be seen to act on its independent nature without being pushed from certain quarter, whether from the media or from the civil society. That is something that we need to see coming to fulfillment, so that Kenyans, we at least trust our judiciary, because that is the last point. When everything goes bad, Miriam, we run to our judiciary. When a presidential election is contested, we go to the Supreme Court, we go to Court of Appeal, we go to High Courts. Therefore, they need to ensure that they work so that Kenyans will see that judiciary, when we run to judiciary, justice will be our shield and defender. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Justice be our shield and defender. Now, it's quite interesting. I'll just go back to the same point I think you've responded to. I see Professor Judiciary has joined us. She reminded judges how former CJ William Mutunga said the judiciary was under capture by agencies within the government, private sector, and civil society. Prof, why do you think she found it necessary to quote that, what former CJ William Mutunga said, and what kind of message do you think she was trying to send out here?
Yeah, thank you, Miriam, for that question. Miriam, you don't expect the new Chief Justice, Miriam, to just work just in the pools. Having said that, Miriam, that there's nothing new she's going to bring in. She's going to provide leadership. She has been the judiciary. She knows what's happening there. And in any event, Miriam, as an insider, I saw the president telling them together with Justice William that they have grown from the grassroots. So Miriam, they understand the corridors of power and some of the challenges we are facing in this country. And in fact, Miriam is going to succeed, because now she's the third Chief Justice under the new Constitution of 2010. In fact, you saw BBI was saying that we need 2 years, Miriam, to have corruption cases being dispensed. She was saying, Miriam, that she went a notch higher, that saying that all cases which are filed in court, whichever nature, we should have them dispensed within 3 years, Miriam. That's a good thing in the right direction, Miriam. And for sure, she has worked as a judge in the High Court. She has been a judge there has been a judge in a station. And for those who have closely worked with her in the administration of justice, I can tell you that she is so much interested in having cases being dispensed. So this one for sure, that's who she is. And in any event, Miriam, you know the kind of work Mutunga did working under the new constitution. She had to lay the ground, Miriam, to create an institutional framework for one to take over, and that's exactly what some of the things which Justice David Maraga did. And if she's going to build on the two, Miriam, seeing where they failed, she's going to be very successful, Miriam. Like now, she has come to realize that there is no need for you to be combative with other arms of the government, Miriam. Miriam, I will continue saying that I was so much thrilled and impressed with that statement of saying that, Miriam, when it comes to serving Kenya, we are not in the pute contest. We are after serving the people, and she said, she's on record, she's saying that she will pick a phone and she will call the president. And wherever you see her with the president, there's nothing you should be able to read. You should be able to see that she's trying to discuss issues to do with administration of justice.
All right.
I will be closely working with her under a different umbrella. And for sure, Miriam, I did pray for her to be the Chief Justice of this country. And I want to wish God's blessings, and I want to watch how she's going to carry herself within 100 days. So it is good, Miriam, you don't thrust over from whoever you have taken over. I've seen leaders in this country, especially members of parliament, when they are elected, Miriam, they completely ignore some of the projects which were started by the people who they have taken over. And you can walk in this country, you can see some projects being like a white elephant. So it is good, Miriam, to pick the good things that Justice Mutunga started, which they continue to have them implemented, and avoid those areas which made them not achieve. So on that, Miriam, and from today, Miriam, I should urge Kenyans, Miriam, when we go to court, there is always one party which will win, and another party coming out of court crying. That's the nature of court, Miriam, unless we subject ourselves to Article 159, and as a certified professional mediator, Miriam, I can tell you that it's good to handle our dispute before we go to court, so that all of us become winners. But if we allow ourselves, we go the full trial of the court, then you will say, oh, they have been bought, oh, they have been captured, they have been doing all manner of things. But we have got a judicial process, Miriam. If the magistrate makes a ruling which you are not happy with, you go to High Court. And if the High Court makes the judgment which you are not happy with, you go to the Court of Appeal. And if the Court of Appeal makes a judgment which you are not happy with, you go all the way to Supreme Court. And this is why that's what we have done with the BPI. We are not happy with that, the judgment of the 5 judges. Let us proceed to the Court of Appeal. Let us see how the court will reason out and give out the judgment. So I submit, Miriam.
All right. Thank you so much. Let me see how the Daily Nation captured that story. And Chief Justice Martha Koome, I'm reading from the Daily Nation on page 8, today's paper. Chief Justice Martha Koome included in her long list of promises the speedy conclusion of the cases, an end to the bad blood between the judiciary and other arms of government, and justice for all Kenyans who seek it, as they formally took over yesterday. The first part of what the Daily Nation there captured, the speedy conclusion of the cases, and we know one of the key impediments is the lack of, and I think she mentioned that too, the lack of enough judicial officers. And as we know right now, there are 41 judges that are pending to be promoted. We know that has been a protracted war since, the former CJ David Maraga was there, and because there were a few judges who perhaps, had questionable character, had questionable issues that perhaps did not warrant them to be promoted, so that we have enough judicial staffs in our courts across the country. But should now, on the other hand, President Uhuru Kenyatta maybe consider appointing these judges, and for those who have these issues, let them put aside, but that should not go on to affect the rest of others who deserve to be promoted, and also for the sake of just delivering justice for the people there. Would it now be right for also the president to show some goodwill there? Samuel Tawish.
Miriam, I think on the question of as to why we've not had the president really appoint the 41 judges, may not necessarily been anchored on the fact that maybe of his relationship with Maraga, the immediate former Chief Justice. And given that now we have the new Chief Justice in the name of Martha Koome, then the president can just go ahead and appoint those 41 judges. So I think there were reasons, there are grounds as to why President Kenyatta felt maybe it was not the right time, or it was not necessary really to appoint these judges. But then moving ahead, because the way the former Chief Justice David Maraga did conduct himself, the relationship between him and the other arms of government, that is including parliament, that is the legislature, and of course the executive, was not that cordial. And that is why you see Martha Koome, even during her interview, she did really stress on the need to have this kind of liaising advocacy and trying to actually reach out to the other arms of government, because after all, they are really independent, but again, they are interdependent rather. Because I think in most cases, this question of being independent has been the hiding kind of card, especially for the judiciary, and they feel like they cannot be called upon on the question of accountability and transparency. And because if there's need, for example, to rein on rogue judicial officers, including judges and magistrates, then why don't we see the Judicial Service Commission? Why don't we see the Chief Justice actually being on the forefront to make sure that we have people of integrity, people of competence that are actually being forwarded to the head of state to be appointed to the judiciary? Because again, when you get it wrong from appointing these individuals to those ranks, then I think there will be no reason at all for us then to begin complaining later that we are not served justice the way we deserve, that maybe we have corrupt individuals in these courts.
But Tawish, this is what the law says. Okay, it is under president prerogative to appoint these judges, right? But also, if there's a few judges, apparently who have issues, and then that is supposed to be communicated, but the president's office did not communicate this matter, and not all of them have issues. So for the interest of just serving Kenyans now,
well, I think, Miriam, the point I was trying to drive home is that there's an adage that to whom much is given, much is needed. And therefore, I challenge the judiciary itself, and including its head now, the new Chief Justice, because it has been asking for more in terms of they need more judges to be appointed. That is the personnel, because again, they need enough personnel to be able to do their job. They need more resources in terms of money. The financing, you remember the immediate former Chief Justice, Dr. Maraga, was complaining about the issue of, stifled financing on the side of the judiciary. There's that question of having enough infrastructure. For example, do we have enough infrastructure across the country to be able to give Kenyans enough opportunity to actually get the services that they need from the judiciary? So these are some of the things, I suppose, are the challenges that the judiciary has been facing. So President Kenyatta, because of that lack of cordial relationship perhaps with the judiciary, especially through its leadership, that is why he was also maybe pulling that card of making it difficult, because in any case, the Judicial Service Commission then cannot go ahead and appoint these judges without the authority of the president, because as by law, the president has to appoint them after the Judicial Service Commission has made recommendation. So I think it was an aspect of lack of that cordial relationship, which in my own observation now, maybe it's going to be remedied, because the president and the new Chief Justice have promised each other. You remember when she was being sworn in, the president did challenge the new Chief Justice that I believe we are going to work together, and none of us is going to step on the feet or foot of the other. So I think it was a call that we do not want to see each other actually making it difficult for the other arm of government really to work. So if it is on the side of the executive, the president himself failing to appoint these judges that can compromise the service delivery in as far as justice is concerned, I challenge also the executive to make sure that they can actually move with speed and make sure these judges are appointed. And if they have any reservation, then they can register the same with the Judicial Service Commission, because in any case, that is the employer of the judges and magistrates in this country. That is the only better way really we can address this point. But as for Chief Justice Martha Koome, Miriam, like what Professor Onyari has did mention, I think I really just need to firm up that these are people who have risen through ranks to be where they are today. from being, of course, an activist, from being judges of the High Court, magistrates, judges of the High Court, to the judges of the Court of Appeal. Now we have Lady Justice Martha Koome alongside William Ouko, who has equally been appointed as the judge of the Supreme Court. So what we will be calling upon is actually the synergy and the compatibility of the judges, especially at the Supreme Court, and actually going down to the last rank in as far as the judiciary is concerned. Because that has also been a question where you have judges who are serving different interests, judges who are pulling in different directions. It was really very difficult for them to work together in that synergy, and the lack of compatibility made it very difficult for them to achieve the bigger dream and goal for the entire judiciary. So I think now that we have these new faces, and if there are any rogue elements within the judiciary, like I called earlier, I challenge the new Chief Justice to make sure that we can carry out a lifestyle audit if need be, to make sure that we have people of competence and integrity in this judiciary moving forward, so that even if they ask for more resources, even if they ask for more personnel, even if they ask for more finances to increase the infrastructure in the country, then Kenyans will really be gladly even supporting that clarion call from the judiciary and challenging even the executive or the or legislature if there will be impediment for one reason or the other for justice not to be dispensed. Miriam, I submit.
Very well. Thank you so much. And this is also what she said there, Jevan. I see a judiciary that will be a leader of accountability and integrity. And in my courts, I'm well known for regularly saying, let me conclude this matter. This is the same attitude, energy that I will bring to the office of the Chief Justice, accountability and integrity. Are we likely to see, the days of corrupt judicial officers here numbered? Jevan Karanja.
Let's hope so, Miriam. Let's be optimistic that maybe their days are numbered. The corrupt judges, the rogue judges, that their days are coming to an end. But Miriam, if you can allow me to jump on that issue of the judges, that the 41 judges before I answer this one.
Go ahead.
Miriam, I still think the Attorney General should have advised the president earlier, even before these names were submitted to him, so that maybe if they had an issue to raise, they could have raised with Judiciary, the Judicial Service Commission, even before these names were submitted to the president, so that maybe if they had any reservation or an issue to raise, they could have done it then. But on the same note,
so you're saying that should not have played out in the public as it did.
Yeah, because the Attorney General sits in that committee. Therefore, he should have known if he had an issue, he could have raised there when they were vetting these judges, because he is a member of the Judicial Service. He is the one who advises the president on the issue of the legal framework. Therefore, he is an ex-official member in the Judicial Service Commission. Therefore, he need to have known this before. But on the same note, the 41 judges, not all of them have been implicated in corruption cases or who have a questionable character. Therefore, if maybe time allows and if with a cordial relationship, if Mother Koome, the president, will create a good rapport, then I see those judges who are clean, then they should be given a go-ahead to continue with their work. Because if we don't have enough judges, Miriam, we are still setting back the wheels of justice, because justice will be delayed, and justice delayed is justice denied at the end of the day. Therefore, that with the new Chief Justice, I hope they'll work on it to ensure that we have enough judges, we have enough personnel, and the issue of digitization of our courts should something that should continue being rolled out even to local courts, because it is not as something that should be relegated to the Milimani law courts and other big courts. It should come even to lower magistrate courts, so that we even at your home, Miriam, you can join a proceeding virtually, and you make your contribution or you participate or in the hearing. Therefore, to me, that's something that should continue being rolled out even to entire country. On the issue of the judiciary and the log officers, as I said earlier, I am optimistic with the new leadership. Mother Koome has been he is from within, from inside. He is not from within the judiciary. He is from inside the judiciary. Therefore, he knows better what should be done and what should not be done. Therefore, I hope with the experience that she has, he will ensure that we have a lifestyle audit. We have other means to ensure that the corrupt judges are shown the door and we are left with a clean judiciary so that we can at least have confidence on how things are done. Also, it's up to Kenyans. As we go to elect our leaders as in the coming general election, we ensure we have leaders. We will not go out there to sabotage this judiciary and give them hard time. Let's also, as judiciary is working on accountability and men of integrity, let us also on our side work on leaders of integrity and accountability so that we balance all arms of government. I submit.
Thank you. Jevan Karanja. Professor, accountability and integrity are some of the very key virtues that sometimes lack in a lot of our judicial officers there. And as CJ Martha Kome said that she envisions a judiciary that will be a leader in accountability and integrity. For those judges or for those judicial officers who don't stand for that, are we likely to see anything happen to them, some form of accountability in that regard?
Miriam, I want to continue wishing well and praying for the new Chief Justice. And if I go by the words of Justice Ringera, he said, Miriam, when he was the director for anti-corruption, Miriam, he said that the corruption fights back. She needs grace, she needs to be initiated, otherwise Miriam, she will be punched like nobody else, and she may she might be good, Miriam. You know, of course, as you know that the fish, you know, you come, you and I, we enjoy fish, apart from Tawis and Chavan. The tilapia is sweet, you know that, but it starts rotting from the head. So perhaps, if Mother comment is that she is the head of the judiciary. If she's not corrupt, then it means that even those who are going to work with her, they are going to follow the ways she's doing. And I've said that in the way she clears and dispenses cases from her court, that's who she is. So on transparency, accountability, on integrity, Miriam, that's what we expect from our church. You know, Kenya, we have come from a situation, Miriam, where we used to say that why should you hire an advocate if you can pay a charge? And some of the cases which the judges handle, Miriam, corruption cases, drug and narcotics cases, Miriam, administration of in the family division in terms of inheritance, Miriam, administration of estate, Miriam, you can understand this. So she needs our support. That's the first thing. Like now, each of my fellow panelists have said about the 40 judges now because one of them passed on. The president has got no choice, Miriam. And you know, the bad thing with me here is that, Miriam, I speak the truth as it is. I don't hide. The best I can do for you, Tawis, is to tell you the truth. Because it will make you a better person. It will make you think what I think about you. I don't tell you that you are having a black suit when you are naked. That's what some of the people are doing to our president. I don't know how he became very proud that he's a president of a country. Let me just be critical on him. He's a president of a country. When you know the number of the court of appeal judges are supposed to be 37. The number which was 13. We have had Huko, Justice Huko and Mother Karua now elevated to the Supreme Court. It comes to the 11. One of them is them is in the training institute, and another one is in East African Court, Miriam, East African Court. Now we are left with a bench of nine judges, Miriam. Surely, can they really hear cases? Honest, be very honest, Miriam. So he has got no choice but to do what is required of him, to have those 40 judges who to me are clean. You know, we cannot go by allegations because NIS have said that these people are corrupt or the DCI have said they are corrupt. If they are corrupt, if we are having magistrates and churches who are corrupt, serving in the court today, Miriam? What business do we need to have them in the lower court, in high court, that they cannot serve in the court of appeal? Let them be appointed, because that's required of him. He's the one who appoints. I can't appoint. Judicial Service Commission cannot appoint. It has only done the interview, Miriam. And you can understand from Miriam here this. You know, there's a lot of politics going on in this country. And from where I sit, Miriam, sometimes I get emotional because people don't want to speak the truth. When those people were being cleared, Miriam, they went to DCIA. NIS was there. NIS does not wake up one morning and Miriam, they say that you are corrupt. They were cleared. They appeared before the Judicial Service Commission. That was the best they can do is for us to have them appointed to the Court of Appeal or be elevated and start the process of removal them from office by setting a tribunal. That's how we work, and that's how we want to take the country forward. I know those people who are advising the president, the Attorney General, the way Chavan has said, those other Andrews, Miriam, it is either they fear telling him the truth, but have told him the truth. That is the law. That is the constitution. You cannot run away from it, Miriam. Because at the end of the day, Miriam, even some of these things which are being nullified by the courts, sometimes, Miriam, they make sense. Advise the president correctly, Miriam. The president, he has got the best advisors whom we pay. So I have no doubt with Martha Koome, my sister. I said I prayed for her and God has answered my prayer. That is not enough. Now work has started. What is talking about, Miriam, is ideal. The reality now, Miriam, we have to clean those judicial those judges who are not clean. And it's not going to be just know that the Chavan is corrupt. It is the Tawis who is going to report. I suspect Chavan there's something to do with the church. So unless we know the churches are corrupt, we don't give those information. We don't complain. We will just come out there and say, oh, the churches are corrupt. That is what I expect. But she means well for the country, Miriam. Mm-hmm. When she speaks, she's very honest. And I have got no doubt that she means that she's accountable, Miriam. Someone who has worked in the civil society, someone who was very instrumental in bringing FIDA into beings and supporting the women of this country, Miriam. She has worked in a family division, Miriam. She has worked in a station, Miriam. I'm very sure, Miriam, that it means well. And I saw him cracking a joke that him and William, they were classmates, Miriam. Mm-hmm. So now it's nice sometimes to go with your classmate, Miriam. And all along they have been contested. And even when William became the president of the Supreme Court, where she contested, she said fine, and she was having friendly fire. May all the churches and the staff of the judiciary and the people of Kenya support Martha Koome so that we can be able to take our churches into accountability, to see them doing things in a transparent and see highest level of integrity as enshrined in Chapter 6 of our Constitution, Miriam, I submit.
Thank you, Professor Jared Onyari, for speaking your mind there very, very clearly. And a couple of things that you brought up that I want to dwell on for just one moment before we conclude the show. Samuel Tawish, Professor is asking, these judges that some of them, not all now the 40 judges, the 41, but one has since passed on, not all of them have integrity issues or issues that have made them not to be appointed in these new positions that have not been done for so quite some time now. So he's saying if these judges apparently have failed the integrity test, and yet as you speak right now, a lot of them are actively dispensing justice in our courts, but they cannot be appointed there because they have these integrity issues. So why are they still serving in our judicial system if that is actually the case? Samuel Tawish. Jivan.
Miriam, I hope you can hear me.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me, Miriam?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay.
We seem to be having a problem with your reception, Samuel Tawish.
I think there's a point that my mention about.
Go ahead. Yeah, your network has a bit of a problem there. So if you're able to fix it, then I'll come back to you. But perhaps the same question to you, Jevan Karanja. Why are these judges with questionable characters still actively dispensing justice in our courts?
That shows that in this country, corruption, to fight corruption, it is an uphill task. It's like squeezing water from a stone. Because if these guys, they are corrupt and they are still dispensing justice, therefore they are dispensing corrupt justice to Kenyans. Therefore, that is why they are blocking even this BBI thing, because if they are questionable and the government is saying they are not, and they think, then you see a lot of things is happening in our judiciary. And as Professor have said, corruption fights back. And I hope in this country we reach to a point, not only the judiciary or the elected person, but all of us Kenyans, we raise one day and say that this thing called corruption, we are going to fight it ruthlessly, lethal, without any fear or favor, or without taking side. That is the only day we will win the war against corruption. Because Miriam, if these judges are corruption, they need to be taken to a court of law. We saw what happened with the Deputy Chief Justice, Philomena Mwilu. She is accused of corruption, and he was taking the helms of leadership in the judiciary. You see, a lot of issues and some conflicting interests being even raised by the civil activists, that he was also sitting on the bench that was vetting the chief justices. Therefore, the issue of corruption in this country, Miriam, will not be won by a day. Because if to be corrupt, you don't go to a bigger office, but you need to remain in a smaller office to dispense small doses of corruption. Therefore, you see, there's a problem. That is why you see, even not only in our judiciary, when you go to the executive, and you'll see that a member of who is corrupt, a cabinet secretary, what we do with them, we just demote them. We just send them home, and nothing much happens. When they go home, they then come back and they go and renovate themselves. And when we see them back, we see them in capacities of governors and members of parliament. Therefore, to answer your question, Miriam, is to mean that the fight against corruption is not still a reality in this country, and something needs to be done to ensure that you don't remain dispensing corruption in smaller doses, in small capacities, and nothing much is happening. I think corruption should be corruption, whether you are in court of appeal, whether you are in court of the Supreme Court, or whether you are in magistrate court or the smaller courts. I think corruption should not be entertained in any level, Miriam. It should be dealt with. Therefore, I see a lot of reluctance, and I see that these judges, Miriam, they could continue dispensing their and now I agree with Professor, and I see the need for speaking the truth. You know, I said the Attorney General should have advised the President earlier as an ex-officio member of the Judicial Service Commission. What was he doing there then, if we are in a legal tussle now when he was there? Also on the issue, if they are still dispensing justice and dispensing corrupt justices at lower level, why not promote them? If we cannot deal with this corruption, to continue doing their work at the Court of Appeal. Therefore, we see a lot of rubbles between the executive and the judiciary. And it's high time that the new Chief Justice and the executive, they work to ensure that they bridge these gaps, and we have a country smooth run, and all arms of government coordinating and working smoothly for the interest of Kenyans, not for their own interest. Because the interest that we are seeing is their interest, not the interest of the common Kenyans. They need to raise above their personal interest and act for the larger and the bigger picture of all Kenyans, and all Kenyans to see that justice is delivered, and all arms of government working in coordination. Because if they cannot coordinate themselves there, they cannot coordinate Kenyans at a lower level. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I think what I've picked from this conversation is that, if we are going to really win on the war against corruption, and we're going to fight it, then we have to go all the way we have to go all the way and mean it and actually go after it with the seriousness that it requires. And our justice system is very, very critical and forms a huge part on helping us fight this vice that has become a problem, not just in the judiciary itself, but all aspects of our lives. So I think that is quite critical. As we conclude, we know the judiciary of Kenya is facing a mirage of challenges as we speak. There is inadequate personnel, which I think we have mentioned, and a few judicial officers, leading to backlog of cases. There is rampant corruption. I will not even say alleged. There is corruption in our, in our courts, resulting in unfair ruling and that make the public lose faith in judicial process. Also, there's very low level of public awareness in their rights and legal procedures, making it difficult for many to access justice. Also, there's high legal fees being charged, and this limits a lot of people from accessing justice. And also the issue of very expensive lawyers we have in this country, and inadequate equipment, automation of legal services, delay the delivery of judgment. And there's also the issue of inadequate funds to finance services that is frustrates the whole operation of the judiciary, and there is the undue interference of the judicial process there. So a lot of other challenges that perhaps have not brought up and have not come up in this conversation. But moving forward, as we conclude, Professor, what will be your advice to Chief Justice Martha Koome as she settles down in her office, and how to deal with some of these challenges?
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you, Miriam. One, may whatever all that she does during her term in office as a Chief Justice for the Republic of Kenya, may she take God first. Number one, may she have faith on the people of Kenya. And those one will be, if you have got God, and you have got the people of Kenya, Miriam, who can be against you? And let her always know that she works as a team. Miriam, together each achieves more. She is not going to work. I've said that the fish starts rotting from the head, and I was saying that Chavan and the Tawish, they don't eat, and Tawish has told me that he is an extraordinary man, sir. He enjoys fish perhaps more than my brothers and sisters from the lake. So what I want to say that I want her to work as a team. And saying at the end of the day, the people of Kenya, Miriam, there are so many good lawyers in this country. And you can see the caliber of the people who appeared in the interview to be interviewed for the position of the Chief Justice. You can see the likes of Ngati. You can see Marete. People found him very close, but I was very so much interested because he spoke his mind, and he said that people can mistake you for this, but she came and she said that Mother Koome. It happens that she comes from Meru, and because he also comes from Meru, but at the end of the day, each takes food to her house or his house. What he was trying to say that we should be able to think Kenyan. That's the point I'm raising, Miriam. That for the Chief Justice to succeed, Miriam, we have to assist her. And I've said under my personal capacity, I've got relationship with the judiciary. We will work together with her. We can be able to speak the truth. The other day I spoke to you that I was in the same forum trying to speak I speak, and the chairman for Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission for Kenya, of Kenya, Eliud Wabukara was there. I spoke and they agreed with me. So whenever an opportunity will come, we will be able to assist our Chief Justice, particularly being a mom, and honestly, she will never be biased, and she will be able to rally the Koreans in the Supreme Court and say that Kenyans have given us work to do. There are so many Kenyans outside there who haven't gotten the privilege, Miriam. I have seen when someone has sent me the advertisement of the people who are going to be interviewed for the position for the 4 commissioners, Miriam. Do you know more than 700 people have applied? And who are properly qualified? So may they use this one as a privilege to serve the people of Kenya and assist the new Chief Justice. so that she can be able to move forward. And let her create rapport with the other arms of the government, with Parliament, with the President. Let us not go to the beauty contest, Miriam, as she has said. I was so much thrilled with that kind of statement. But what we know at the end of the day, may we administer justice to the people of Kenya. Whoever goes to the corridors of courts in Kenya, Miriam, what you want is justice. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, Miriam, you will never be arrested by saying that this thing belongs to Prof. I will never be arrested human being by saying that this is for Miriam. And our charges, we pay them well. We pay them well. And if you want to make money, don't go to judicial. Don't go to areas where we are going to administer justice. So, what I recommend to be doing is, Miriam, I've said, God first, the people of Kenya may she embrace accountability, transparency, and integrity. And the sky will not even be the lower limit. Will be more than that, she will succeed.
Okay, thank you, Prof. And that is where we end our conversation this afternoon, about 11 minutes past noon here in Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you, Professor Jared Onyari, Jevan Karanja, and Samuel Tawish. My name is Miriam Ogotu. This has been the People's Court. Bye-bye for now.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.